Yeah, good day, Luke speaking.
Hello, Mr. Williams. This is Felix, and I have my co-host Austin here joining me as well. Thank you so much for taking time to join us today.
We're not on the air yet, are we?
Actually, we are, yeah. Is that okay?
Oh. Yeah. G'day, matey. How the bloody hell are you doing?
We're doing well. Austin, go ahead and say hello, man. Don't be quiet. Don't be shy.
Hey, how you doing? I'm doing great.
Good on you, mate. You're looking great, too.
Wait.
All right. And we just wanted to start asking you a couple of questions. Just wanted to start off, first of all, because I've always been curious, how did you get your start in professional wrestling? How did you get, you seen that
how
you
did I start
wrestling growing up?
The next door neighbor, I'm back in New Zealand, the next door neighbor was a bodybuilder, and he went in a bodybuilding contest, and won this, a runner-up in Mr. New Zealand. Now, one of the judges of the Mr. New Zealand contest was an ex-Mr. New Zealand turned wrestling promoter. And he said to my next-door neighbor, why don't you start making some money with that body? He says, come into this gym in Wellington. We lived in Lower Hutt, a suburb of the capital. Come into Coolman's Gymnasium and see what you think about the business. Hence, my neighbor went in and saw about the business and he started training there. 3 months later, he hooked me into coming with him to the gym. I was only a light heavyweight then, around 175 pound or junior heavyweight, whatever you like to say. And now, talking about the gym, mate, you saw the first Rocky movies, the old steam rooms, the metal, the old pipes running through the gym. It was 2 rings.
Yep.
They're both 4 ropes each ring. They're boxing rings. In New Zealand, the wrestling rings had to have 4 ropes. This is in the 60s, early 60s.
Yep.
They had to be 20 foot apart inside the ring, and they had to have 4 ropes. And we had rounds those days. So that's how I got into wrestling. I started training there. I'd never been to a wrestling match yet. We didn't have television in New Zealand. Not wrestling on television. We didn't have television. Television never came to our country till '67. And now this is 1961, '62. I'm talking about.
Okay.
So
there, that's how I got into it. And then I think it was the second show I went to, someone didn't arrive. Next minute, someone threw me a pair of boots. I had a pair of jeans on, and someone threw me a tank top, and I was in the ring. That's how I started.
Did you have a question, Austin? Go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say, you probably wrestled around the world in many, many places, but what is the one place that you've enjoyed wrestling in more than any other?
Oh, of course, working in the States, mate. When I first started in the business, we only ran, New Zealand promoter only ran when an overseas guy, an American came, or a European, British guy. We got more European and British guys more than American guys, because New Zealand being a British colony, we'd get people from Europe or people from England, and that down in New Zealand, that come for about 3 months, and the promoter would run 3 times a week. He'd run maybe for 2 weeks, run 3 times a week or twice a week, twice the next week. That's all they had. And I started in 1962. In 66, that's when another guy, a gentleman by the name of John De Silva, went into the Empire Games, which are like the Canadian, the British have the games like the Olympic Games, but just for the British companies. They're called the Commonwealth Games or the Empire Games. You ever heard of them?
I can't say that I have.
So.
Anyhow, a New Zealand wrestler won a medal in that. He was a heavyweight wrestler, and it was in England. And while he was over in England, he turned pro. He came back to New Zealand in '66 and opened up, and we started running 7 days a week. We didn't have wrestling. We didn't have wrestling on television till '75. I was already over in the States. I was already over in North America in '71, and I flew back for the first tapings in '75, when we first started taping on the mat in New Zealand in 75. But 67 was just radio broadcast. The matches would be, whatever town it was, there'd be live broadcast on the station, and the form of advertising was poster and radio and newspaper.
Very cool. Yeah. And it said here that you actually got the opportunity to work with Stu Hart's Stampede Wrestling in Calgary. What was that like?
That was my second. That was, let's go back a few years before that, mate. A gentleman died about a month ago who was a big part of Butch and my success. I don't know whether you know the Vachons. Mad Dog Vachon died about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago.
Absolutely.
You ever heard of him?
Yes, sir.
There was still the Butcher Vachon who got married in WWF in the early days. In the early 80s when Vince took over, he got married in the ring, the big guy, and his brother was Mad Dog Vachon, who was a hairy guy who actually won a medal too in the games, in the Commonwealth Games. Well, he died about 2 months, maybe 6 weeks, 2 months ago. Him and Butch are the ones that actually brought us over this side of the world. We actually came over. They brought us over to North America and to our first promotion here, which they owned, and that was Grand Prix in Montreal. And Andre had just come in there about 4 to 6 months ahead of us, and we knew Andre from the 60s in New Zealand, and the place was on fire. They were running the promotion. Grand Prix was running 3 towns a night, and that 7 nights a week, and the Rougeos too. That was the opposition in that same area. They were running once a night. So you can imagine wrestling was hot. This was in 71, 72, 73, 74. That was in Quebec and Ontario, Canada, and we're coming into Barrie. We're coming into Vermont in the States too. It's just a few towns over the border, but the place was hot. Had all the main stars too, American stars there. Killer Kowalski was one of the titles. Bruno was coming in and out. It had the names are. You guys might know the names, but the names of the 60s and 70s, they're all there. The big names in the business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine how much fun it was back then. I mean, with the
yeah,
crowd.
Tarzan Tyler, Billy Two Rivers, Billy White Cloud. It's the names that all work through the states. And that Brute Barnard, just the names who were big everywhere, who were big in the Carolinas for NWA, who were big in Georgia, big in Florida. The names, the place was full of talent because they're running 3 towns a night.
I can't even imagine.
The next territory was, we were there for a year and a half, and the guy, the promoter says, we were used up on top. We were the Kiwis, Nick Carter and Sweet William. It was Brute. It was the Beauty and the Beast. I was the blonde with blonde hair, and I led Butch around on a collar and chain, and we were known as the Kiwis. And then in the next, they said to us, well, you've been here in a year and a half, and we're going to keep you hot so we can bring you back. So you want to go to another territory? And we said, yeah, you're going to bring us back, keeping us hot instead of having to go down the cards. And they said, well, we're going to send you to a place called Stampede Wrestling. We never heard of Stampede. And we didn't know, we were on the East Coast working right over to Ontario, Quebec, Ontario, and right up to Manitoba. We never heard, the Stu's over in Calgary. If you know their layout of Canada, it goes Ontario, it goes Quebec, Ontario, and then Manitoba, and then Alberta, down across, and then BC, and then you've got the ones above it. Anyhow, British Columbia, which is Vancouver. Anyhow, so next minute we were on the plane and we land in Calgary. First night we're there, we're in the ring with the champions, and we're getting disqualified. We always carry the New Zealand flag. We're beating the champions up. We got disqualified, and that's they were laying down. We were DQ'd, disqualified, and that. next minute, these kids were getting thrown in the ring. And we didn't know that these kids were between 11 and 13. So, 11, 12, 13, and that they were getting thrown in the ring by a friend of ours, Abdullah the Butcher. Wow. A couple of them were bleeding, and he was throwing them. He threw 4 kids in the ring, and he's yelling out, "Beat the kids up!" The Friday night is in the pavilion in the fairgrounds, and it's taped every Friday night, and it's showing live on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock in the morning. So we're beating these kids up and that, and then we left all the bodies laying. We went back, and Stu Hart met us when we were coming back at the door. He said, "What the fucking hell are you doing? What the bloody hell are you doing?" And we said, "Oh, well, Abby just threw these kids in and yelled out to us to beat them up. And, we want to get over it." And he'd give us the word to beat them up. And then Stu told us they were his kids. So that was it. Believe it or not, we're on television beating up Stu's kids. The first night we were in the territory, and then there was 2 arenas in the fairgrounds. There was the Corral, which now is the Saddle Dome. You heard of that's where they do tapings, the pay-per-views and that. Stu, every so often they ran the pavilion, and then 4 times a year they ran the Corral. And that, believe it or not, Sunday we were working in the Corral, so we were 2 days in Calgary, 3 days in the territory. We worked, the first night we worked Calgary, the next night we worked Edmonton, then Sunday we came back for the special in Calgary, in the Corral, the big show.
You must
and when we walked out, when we walked out to that arena, mate, we already had heat. That was one of the quickest times we had heat in any territory we've been to.
That's
you
crazy.
Must have
faced
a lot of Stu's kids, because he has a lot of them.
He had 12 kids, mate. They're all good friends. What's left of them? God, sorry about saying that. There's 2 of them dead, of course. Owen, and Dean. Dean died of a kidney problem many years ago, and that had maybe 25 years ago, but 30 years ago. But then you know about what happened to Owen, and God bless him. Yeah. Owen was a hell of a kid. And of course, Brett, when we were there in 72, 73, Brett was only 13 then. When we came back in we had 6 weeks there in 79. And that's when we teamed up with Dynamite Kid. He'd just come in. Whoa. And that's when we worked against the whole family. On that big, when Brett came back and they put out a triple DVD thing of him, one of the matches with us, and a 6-banner was on that DVD.
That must have been a great match, too, with Dynamite and all the talents that was in that ring,
Well, the funny part is when we left, mate, Butch and me were the smallest guys in the territory, as in heels. The Stomper, the Mongolian Stomper, Archie Goldie, he was about 260, 270. And then all the rest of them, Abdullah, John Quinn was 6'9", 325. Abdullah, 350. It was all big heels. And that we were 230 and 210, 215, 220. I was, which is about 10 pounds heavier. And then when we came back in 79, and I looked in the dressing room, and the British pick was already come in. Davy Boy hadn't come in yet, but the British, and Dynamite was only 175 pounds then. You know what I mean? Muscled up, but 175 pounds. They're all 180, 190. Now we're much heavier because this was from 73 to 79 now, and we're the biggest guys in the territory. And I'm looking around the dressing room, and then I walk out in the arena, and the arena's packed, the pavilion's packed. Then I knew why. When I saw Dynamite in the ring, and what he was doing, I said, God, it was a whole different thing. Dynamite was a cage match, and he was coming off the, he did the, you know what Dynamite did. Benoit copied him. The high, coming off the top of the ring, on top of the cage with those headbutts and smashes, and boy, it was another, completely different from what we left before.
Yeah.
Well, did you
How did you? Go ahead, Austin.
I was gonna say that you this with the Hearts. Did you actually have a chance to go to Stu Hart's dungeon, like check it out?
Right, we ate there. We actually helped them book all the shows and that, and the matches, you know, to keep the territory hot and that. We'd go up there every Sunday morning there and that, had dinner there. Not every Sunday, but there. I could tell you a lot of stories there. And Brett carried around tapes of boys, even in WWF. He'd tape the boys, not video, but audio, of Stu stretching them. Stu would get the boys to go on their hands and knees, and it didn't matter how big they were, 280, and then he put a hold on them. You know, he wouldn't take the hold. He'd get them to get on their hands and knees, put a hold on them, then tell them to fight out of it. Of course.
Oh my God, that's probably sentiment.
He was so strong. If you looked at Stu, he had those six thighs and hips. A good amateur shooter has those thick thighs and thick hips. Because when you get the guy down on the mat and you get those legs in the stance, all your body's holding them, you know, in your waistline, you know, around there, the thighs. You ride them. And he used to ride the boys. They shit their pants or their eyes, the veins in their eyes would pop. And the boys would be screaming, Stu, and Stu would be going,
I bet he enjoyed it.
Yeah, he enjoyed it. He stretched a lot of big guys. That's well known. That's how the dungeon got its name, mate. If nothing was happening there, we wouldn't know about it.
And look at everybody that walked out. They walked out winners and people that are best in the world.
Some of the champions came out of that dungeon.
Yeah, they've all been there.
Yep.
And how did it come to be that Vince McMahon Jr. actually got you guys over to the WWF? I mean, did he reach out to you, or did somebody set up a meeting and you guys made your way to the WWF?
No.
How did that work?
We worked. After, you know, when we came back in '79, we were working. We were working with in Hawaii, and that's when Roddy and God bless him, Buddy Rose came over for a big show there, and they said, we were sort of a tag team in Oregon for Don Owens. You know, Don Owens was the Northwest Championship Wrestling who would send from the top of California into Vancouver. It's one of those great little territories back in the day. You know what I mean? Everyone loved to go there. And when we went there, you heard of it?
I've heard of him. Yes, I have heard of him.
Yeah, Don Owens. Yeah, so they were over in Hawaii, and we got on the phone, and he says, "Yep, I come in when you finish in that." So we were going to Japan. We were just in Hawaii for a short time. For Ed Francis. Russ Francis was an NFL player for the Patriots, the wide receiver back then. And we went to Japan, and then came into Oregon. And there was Jimmy Snuka there. There was Buddy Rose. There was Roddy Piper. Then Rick Martel was a good friend of mine. I remember from when he started as a kid, when he was 15. So I got him back in there. And Jesse Ventura was in and out. Everyone I'm talking about, Ron Bass, Cowboy Ron Bass, everybody went to WWS. Yeah, we're all there in Northwest, and then I was there for about a year and a half, and that Butcher Me ran against Roddy Piper and Rick Martel for a year and a half around that area. So that was all good. We drew money, you know, packed houses all the time. We had Buddy Rose who was in an army. We had Buddy Rose join the Kiwi Army. You know, we were all wearing British stuff. You know, the Union Jack, of course, and he denounced America, which gave him more longevity. Buddy Rose was in that territory for 10 years. That's unknown to be in one territory for 10 years. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
That's good.
Anyhow, after that, we were booked. Don Owens got us booked. Jimmy went down there first to the Carolinas, the NWA headquarters for the Crockett's, and then Butcher Me went, and then Roddy came, and now we're all in the Carolinas. That was and 81 was the first, or 81 was the first time we were in the Carolinas, and then Then we worked all over the states for different. We're in the Carolinas, not knowing that we're on TBS. We knew the business well, but the politics we didn't realize that when we were going to Atlanta all the time and taping at Turner Studios that was nationwide.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't so heavy up north. TBS wasn't so in the early '80s, TBS in the late '70s. TBS was heavy in the south. It was called WTBS then, but it wasn't so heavy up north. And then it didn't get heavy up north till about the mid to late '80s. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So we walked out on the clock, and so we didn't know you didn't know the politics of the business. You know, you don't on the Crockett's you don't walk out. They say we'll finish up at Christmas and we'll bring you back in a couple of years. Well, we stayed for 6 months and we were used on top everywhere, and that we knew that the Ray Stevens and Jimmy Snooker, we were in one town on top. We knew these other guys how much money they were making compared to us. So we got an offer to go to Puerto Rico for the World Wrestling Council. Carlos Colon.
Yes, I've heard of that. Yes.
Yeah, so we headed down there. We were doing 3,500 miles a week on the road in the Carolinas, and they says working, 7 days a week, and we could go down and work 3 days a week, 4 shows a week in Puerto Rico and make more money. So we headed down to Puerto Rico, which was one of our big mistakes in the business, because now we're off nationwide television. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I mean, that's what I mean. Didn't you enjoy working in Puerto Rico?
No, yeah, I just spent 12 years there, mate. I just moved back to the States this year. I started booking for Carlos. That was my first time in Puerto Rico, and I became a booker for Carlos and that. And I had Brody, Abdullah, Stan Hansen. I had all those guys working for me, 83, 84, 85, when I was booking in Puerto Rico.
Do you still go down there from time to time?
No, well, I just came back. I just spent 12 years. I ran an office. Ran an office from 201 to 209. Victor Quinones died in 208, and I was in that office for all the time that he was there. He had IWA. Victor was the guy who had rings in Japan, and with Terry Funk and Cactus Jack, Mick Foley. He did all the wild stuff. And then when he came back to the States, he was doing all the booking for Vince, the Mexican guys, and the Japanese. You know, when they had all the juniors there in 79 and 89, 99, 2000, to Jerry, Takanuchu, and the Mexican guys.
Yeah, Super Juniors.
That was all that.
Wow. And then
that was
you said
all
you were
that.
just... Do you actually, when was the last time you were in Puerto Rico?
No, this time last year. I moved here. Okay. I moved here in January.
What? Oh, okay.
How do you like
That's
Florida?
Recent.
No, I lived here. Hope got me to move here in 77 or 78. 78. Oh. When I joined WWF in 78. Hulk was the one that got me to move to Clearwater, Indian Rocks, Pinellas County, Indian Rocks. It's in the Tampa Bay area, but it's over on the Gulf. I moved there and had a home on the beach from 88 to 202. So I went 201, so I went to Puerto Rico.
You must have really enjoyed actually, staying in Florida, because you have I don't know if it's recently, but opened up a gym there. How
yeah, I'm right above Hulk's shop. I'm back there now.
Oh, really?
I'm right Hulk's shop. Not the Hulk's Beach. Hogan's Beach is a bar by Tampa Airport. That's on the bay. But it's Hogan's Beach shop is on Clearwater Beach. I'm right above it.
Oh.
Wow.
So you must see the Hulkster once in a great while, though. Like every couple of weeks or so, you might see him.
He comes and works out in the gym 4 days a week.
Oh, really?
Oh,
so he's
actually,
there.
You
wow.
see him more often. Okay,
That's
there
nice.
we go. Okay.
I see him. I know Terry well. That's how I see him all the time. I saw him yesterday. Nick is here and his daughter's here for Christmas.
Whoa,
very cool.
Wow.
They all come. the daughter didn't come to the gym, but Nick and Terry both came in the gym, and his wife Jennifer comes in the gym all the time. They don't go to the gym at their home though, but they only live a mile away from or 45, 3/4 of a mile away from where the shop is on the beach.
And then you also I seen a recent picture you took with Bret Hart's ex-wife, Julie Hart.
Yeah, but I worked Calgary about 3 months ago. I worked Edmonton. That was the first time I'd worked Edmonton and Calgary since I left Vince. And that was 97, 96. I worked Edmonton and Calgary.
I bet that
was old times. It's changed a lot.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah.
I bet it was a lot of fun to reminisce with old friends that you have there.
Oh, yeah, no, I saw, Tommy's daughter come up. Tommy is, Dynamite Kid. She says, Dad, Dad's in a wheelchair, crippled. Last time I saw him was about 2001 in Manchester, just outside Manchester. And then she said, I hope you don't tell Dad. She's in the business now, too, as a valet.
Yeah.
Tommy's daughter.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
Yes, she is.
The world's changed,
I know he's proud of her.
Huh?
I definitely know that Dynamite's very proud of his little girl, so.
Yeah, he's very proud of his little girl. But
and
she said, "Don't tell Dad." She said to me, "Don't tell Dad how I dress, though."
We actually have
that's even though she's 26 or whatever it is, she respects Dad.
That's good. That's very nice.
Yeah,
and do you still wrestle from time to time, or not as often? Do you still travel?
The 12th of January, 12th of December, as I come off the road, I worked the 12th was a Thursday, because I remember I did an autograph session at Hogan's Beach with Knobs, Big Sexy Kevin Nash,
cool.
Devo, Jimmy Hart. Jimmy Hart's a good friend of mine, which I'm with tomorrow night. There's a big... Yeah, anyhow, I'm in the host queue.
Oh,
that's cool. Are you there?
What's going on there? Another voice comes on all the time and telling me I'm in the host queue.
What?
I'm not sure exactly why it's doing that, because I can hear you just fine, yet it's something...
I know, but it's a voice. You're not hearing that come in. It's coming in my end. Anyhow, so that was my first. The 20th, the 12th, the 14th, the weekend of the 14th of December was the first weekend I was at home for 3 months.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
I'm on the road every weekend, mate.
At home.
I work all over the States, and I usually go to Germany twice a year, and then I can't get in. I've got to cross my passport for UK. There's a little story to that, but where the promoter didn't give me a work visa, so I got banned from UK for 10 years. But I still go to Europe, Belgium, and Germany, and I work in Canada a lot, from Toronto right over to Vancouver, and up in the Maritimes, and I work all around the States. I just did a convention for 3 days in Vegas, and I hadn't been in Vegas since 2000. Boy, that place is growing. You know what I mean? That's just. I remember that just being a little strip in the '80s. Now it's I was in a hotel called the Paris Las Vegas, which is joined under Bally's, and that is between the both places. There's 3,000 rooms.
Jeez.
Unreal, huh?
3,000. Well, it's always busy in Vegas. I mean, I don't know if I would want to live there. For the time, I wouldn't want to live in Vegas, but it must be a good place to actually go, for once in a while and check out.
Yep.
Luke, Mr. Williams, actually wanted to ask you real quick. There was a question that was asked of me to ask you, and it was like, you and Butch got to work on the television show Family Matters back in
it was
mid-90s.
Steve Urkel.
Yes. What was that like?
That was great, mate. Great. Carl and Steve Urkel, they're their stage names. The whole crew was great, and a couple of the and a couple of the family members too, who were pals, kids and that who work in that. I can't think of their real names at the moment. Oh, they were real wrestling nuts. Real wrestling nuts.
Wow.
But it was great to work in there. We were there for a week. We were in Burbank for a week, you know, and working there. That was very great. That was great, mate. We did a few other little pieces and other shows too over the years and that, but that was one that they still play. They still play on television all the time.
Yeah, I just saw it the other day too.
Same here.
I still get people call me all hours from all over the country. They say, "Oh, you're on TV, Saturday Matters."
You'll still remember it.
That's awesome. It's a timeless show that doesn't get old. You see it, and every generation gets to see it.
Yeah, it's great.
And I wanted to ask you one last question, and on my half, do you still keep in contact with Butch? And if so, how is he doing?
Yes, last year I did a tour down Australia and New Zealand for Armageddon. There was a big convention called Armageddon in Australia and New Zealand, and I went there, and a gentleman's be coming over from NZBC, that's New Zealand Broadcasting Corporation, which owns the television, NZTV1, TV2, TV3, TV4. He's been doing a personal documentary. He's come over and taped me 3 or 4 times, you know, traveled me around the country, and he's taped a lot of people coming from the 70s and the late 60s and 70s. He went and videoed them, you know, got an interview from them all. He's put a documentary together called Wrestling Spectacular, 100 Years of Wrestling on the Mat in New Zealand. He's got Abe Jacobs. He's got Abe was one of the original. Pat Stead, but Tanakana was a Kiwi too, you know. And I'm the last guy from the 60s. I'm the only guy still in the ring from the 60s. So I went home and I met Butch. I talk to Butch every week or every 2 weeks and that. But I went home, met him. I hadn't seen him, but you know, he left me in 2002. He was very sick. He got a staph infection and left me in 2002, and he was in hospital for 12 weeks there. That's the long story. I know he's okay now. He had only one hit for 3 years, but he's back mobile now, getting around, you know, much better than he was.
I'm glad to hear that.
And we finished off the documentary at the end last year. They were late 2014. They should be coming out.
Okay.
I mean, check it out. Definitely.
And
it's got Rick Martel.
Go ahead.
Sorry, mate. It's got other guys like Rick Martel. It's got Don Morocco. It's got all the other people that I've interviewed in it, and he's just waiting to get footage of Vince. You know, he's having a little war because Vince wants so much for the footage. You know what I mean? He only wants 30 seconds or a minute from a minute of this guy, a minute of that guy in the ring, because it'll make the documentary much better. Because he's already interviewed them all. They'd just like to show them a little bit of action in WWF. And by rights, too. It's good promotion for WWF. But Vince don't see it that way. You know what I mean?
I understand. Trust me, you're not the first person to tell me that. I've heard that many times.
Yeah.
But that's good. You know, I'm glad Butch is doing good. And I wanted to ask, I mean, you have your website, and is there other ways that, I mean, fans can keep in contact with what you're doing and reach out to you, maybe social media?
Yeah, social media is, of course, it's bushwhackerluke.net or .com, and then I have Facebook, Bushwhacker Luke Williams, and I have Instagram, which I'm on quite a lot too. I just did that big thing in New York, and that with all the people in New York. It was called Big Event New York, and they had 50 legends on that show. I don't know whether you heard of it or not. There's Hope, there was Bruno, even Bobby Heenan, and that. I was there with all those. You know, so I'm on that Instagram a lot too. And my gym too is on that Instagram, Clearwater Beach Fitness. That's on Instagram too. And
well, if you're ever hiring at your gym, I'd love to come work for you. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Well, you know, that's cool. I'm glad you're still out there and people are still seeing you, because you were definitely. I grew up watching you as well. You and Butch and your connection with the crowd in the WWF. Although I only got familiar with you in WWF, I don't remember that far back, but you guys had just so much. The fans were drawn to you guys, and that was just amazing. You guys didn't need any titles or anything like that. You were just out there to have fun.
Yeah, the people don't believe. People don't understand. People who knew us couldn't believe that we were the sheep herders. How we could do the bushwhackers, and the answer to that question is money. You go from a wrestling company NWA, to where you become a celebrity, WWE, WWF.
Yeah. And if they offered you a chance to be inducted into their Hall of Fame, would you and Butch accept?
No. Oh yes, certainly. I've been pushing for that, but they always, Butch is over in New Zealand, and that'll be a time, I guess. Hey, what tag team was together for 34 years now? You told me one.
Not many.
Not any,
None.
Really. I mean, none that I can think of. Off the top of my head, none that I can think of, and I have to give credit to you guys for that. We started touring the world, Singapore, Bangkok, and all that here in 68 together. We started tagging in 66, then 68, say 68. We started touring out of our country to 202, 34 years.
Wow, that's Hall of Fame worthy, definitely. You guys have done it all, and I cannot tell you how much I respect you for everything you guys have done in your career. I mean, thank you so much for providing all the hours of entertainment you guys have, and just how entertaining you guys are when you come out is just phenomenal. I love you guys so much.
Yeah, I appreciate that, mate. And I wish you'd seen the earlier days, because we were quoted as hardcore before hardcore became a name brand.
Oh, trust me.
There you go. Did you guys have any
we were doing four-way chain matches, barbed wire cage matches.
My goodness.
Boot camp matches from the 70s.
I'd love to see that kind of the footage from that time. Absolutely.
I tell you one match to go, and the Mensa said it was in the 80 decade. It was in one of the top 10 tag matches. Go to either 1986 or 88 in the Superdome, the Crockett Cup. In the Superdome, just type in Fantastics against Sheep Herders. Fantastics against in the Superdome. Type that in, and you'll see that match. Blood and guts.
Okay. Okay. You know what? I will do that.
Speaking of the Superdome, next year, 2014, WrestleMania is coming around. You guys going to be at WrestleCon?
Well, I'm actually going to be down there for
Mid-South.
The Mid-South big thing. They're doing a big thing, and I'm going back to actually hop in the ring as a sheep herder against Bobby Fulton.
I'm going to be there.
One of the Fantastics. So when you look at that match, you'll see what we were like those days.
That's awesome.
That is so awesome.
Anyhow, guys, it's been great talking to you and all the fans, and I wish everybody a happy holidays and a very healthy and prosperous New Year.
Most definitely.
You do the same, sir. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Whoa!
Yay! No, there you go.
Love that.
Have a good one, guys.
Right, man. Thank you
too,
so much.
sir. Bye-bye.